All right, guys. Thanks for coming. We're really excited. Thanks for coming to the gallery. I know I'm very excited to have Daryl Thetford's solo exhibition here at Chauvet. So if you guys have seen, you guys can look at Daryl's artwork already, and he has this kind of uncanny ability to his paintings have this balance of, you can see him like this tension and this energy of this emotion, and it makes you want to feel something that's a little bit deeper than just normal everyday stuff. You know, it's a really nice balance. And so Daryl himself, just beyond the work that he does, he's very interesting because he's curious and he's experimenting a lot and he's honest in his work and in his life. And so he's always pushing his technique. So if you look at these, they're a lot more dynamic than they were a few years ago. And even in his personal work, he's working on different projects that are exciting that hopefully we'll be able to share at some point soon, you know. And so tonight, it's not going to be a formal lecture at all. That's not what we're going to do. We're just going to have a conversation together and anything that might come up naturally. So what do you think ties this current body of work emotionally for you?
My wife and I both used to be in the community mental health field. And so we were both very burnt out people in the community mental health field. And so in our 30s, we both quit our jobs to become professional artists full time. And of course, that was just, 2 years ago. But, and so I've been doing this full time as a professional artist for 26 years. And the reason I bring that up is initially the pieces I did were kind of simple, iconic. I wanted to be completely removed from anything psychological. It's like, let's do the bicycle. That's straightforward and simple. It's an American icon. Let's do a guitar. Let's do all these simple things. I incorporated my training back into my art. The two had kind of merged. So the very first exhibit I ever had was at the Carl Jung Center, the famous psychologist in Houston, Texas, which is the kind of the headquarters of the Jung Institute. And I realized, wow, this has really come full circle. All of these pieces are really the same. I mean, I had done a series that was kind of a heavy psychological series. Initially, it was called The Struggle to Evolve Before the End of Time. But I think the latest one was the Unrelenting Stream, and that really talking about how we look at in our heads, from the media, from social media, from text and all the input we're getting and stimulation we're getting at all times, both externally and internally. And this really represents the same thing in a lot of ways. It's just, to me, it's a different version. So like the faces, this is not the best thing, but like the faces have all this stuff on them about, which are more obvious, about time, work, balance, money, like elements of time, which is name, computers that are kind of falling, bridges, which represent transition. I just always kind of look for words and symbols that reflect that. This early cursive writing is from the poet Marie Howe. She wrote a poem called What the Living Do. And her brother had died of AIDS, and she was kind of struggling with, okay, what am I doing with my life? And the poem is like, I'm walking down the street, I'm spilling coffee on my hand, I'm telling my daughter to hurry up. This is what the living do. This is the way we live. We don't live in just big moments. So I love that. The word economy, live, give, actually, some Zen poet had stenciled on a bathroom wall, give more, expect less, live simply. So that's where that came from. So the flowers came from, so I'd done this series for the Holter Museum. I had a 3-month exhibit there, and it was a heavy art series. which is where I was going when I started this tangent. And I came out of that, and I don't want to do that right now. I've kind of been living in that for a year or two. So I knew I wanted to keep doing my faces. I've done some version of my women's faces for years and years. But what would go with that? What would be a relief? Kind of almost like you're saying. That's why I thought, you know, it'd be kind of a relief from some of this other stuff I've been doing. It wouldn't invoke almost stress just by looking at it at times. And I thought, I've never done flowers, never done any kind of floral or still life, anything like that. So can I even do that in my style, which is kind of a graffiti-esque style? So I started experimenting. I did one or two, and I've kind of got a committee that I work with. So my wife sees it first, and she goes, oh, that doesn't work at all. Or she'll go, yeah, I like that. She has a really good eye, so I can trust that. If it passes that test, I have two more artist friends. One lives in Cincinnati, one lives in Birmingham. I'll send them a text and say, what do you think of this? And usually it gets more critical. It's like, oh, I really like this, but I don't like that. And it's like, okay. So once I had this kind of a role, I wanted to do that to bring also, you know, regardless of where you fall on the news, political spectrum and all that, it's just, there's a lot of stress and tension all the time, it seems like, if you read the news and watch the things and have social media. And I want it to be a little bit lighter than that. Something that reflects a little bit of contemporary life, but doesn't dwell in the noise of it. So, and kind of brings some beauty and lightness to it. So, to answer your question.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you too, because I mentioned earlier, because that's what your work I think does for me. It's contemporary, but there's a human value to it.
Yeah. You know, Dave, it's funny, years ago, Dave Matthews Band, when he was big, or they were big, at one point he was releasing a solo album. And they were interviewing him, saying, are you leaving the band? And he goes, no, absolutely not. But he said, if you listen to my lyrics, they're kind of dark and heavy, but my band puts this happy tune to it. And so many people are dancing to these really heavy lyrics. And I kind of felt like for a long time that's what I've been doing. I've been doing heavy subjects, but pieces you can dance to. So more color and boldness. And, you know, it's like, okay, it's got some heaviness, but it's got some lightness, and I can live with this.
Well, that's kind of like a good segue, because I was going to ask you, which piece do you think people in this exhibit maybe, or even in the past, have people misunderstood? You know, greatly misunderstood.
I mean, you know, the more than anything, the faces have always been the thing that people project onto. You know, I'm even doing it. This is a beautiful, nice, pleasant face. I have no meaning behind that face. And people come in and go, wow, you're just really dark. Or, you know, or, oh, it's so peaceful, it's so Buddhist, it's so calming. Other people will go, oh, you can just tell, she's thoughtful and happy. It's like, so people project, you know, I don't know if they're misunderstanding it, maybe that's the meaning of it, but that's the one that brings the most interpretation of anything I do.
So in this exhibition particularly, if you had to take one of these pieces home with you and live with it, which one would you take?
You better say me.
You know, well, you don't have to take just one. If you buy a dozen, you get 13 free. So, I love black and white and red and the graphic poppy nature of that. So that piece right there that has all the black, white, and red, I mean, that always speaks to me.
Yeah, I think that might be my favorite too.
So it's funny, and I've got a good friend who's an artist, and he'll immediately go, no, it's the one with all the colored flowers right there. Yeah. He doesn't like the graphic stuff, but that's more of his, more of his take on things.
Yeah, like the explosion of flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a
incorporate any collages in your work since you use so many words?
So what I'm doing, I started out as a photographer, and I was selling Americana photography. And at one point, very, very shortened version of this long, boring story, but at one point, I was taking these photographs digitally, but they were straightforward photographs. And I had a guitar sign on a computer screen. And I was just sitting there, and I was working with this photograph of graffiti on the old train I had taken. I just stuck that on the guitar. It just digitally collaged it on the guitar. I thought, wow, that was great. Now I stuck another piece behind that. So it was just a 3-piece collage, and that was done digitally. And I was thinking, I don't know, would anybody buy that? I like it. And so one show, I printed one about this size, and I showed up with it. And I had 2 people fighting about who got to buy it. I think I'm on to something. So that was, and then the first few, I did 3, I did 5, I did 10 pieces. And then once it seemed to cross a threshold, and now I literally could not tell you, all those flowers that you're seeing are photographs of, not a bouquet, those are photographs of individual flowers that I take flower shops and Whole Foods at different places, and I begin piecing them together and building a bouquet. Same with all the material you're seeing. Even the colors, I have hundreds of files of photographs of weathered paint that I'll cut and paste in there digitally. So most of these will have, I just have to guess, most of these will have 500 photographs in them, and that I've collaged digitally. I'll tell people I do a digital collage, then I do a physical collage. So digital collage, it's created built at size. So if I build something that is I just did 4 pieces for an airport in Colorado. I built them at 8 feet by 11 feet. I didn't build them small and large them. I built them at 8 by 11 feet. And so they're crystal clear at that size. And so once I have that digital collage, then I take a sheet of composite aluminum. I'll take handmade paper. I coat the whole thing in handmade paper of all kinds. I'll coat that with different types of artist media. I work with somebody for months to try to figure out how to print on that. And that's what we do. We print on destroying one expensive printer. But we're there now. And so we print on that. I paint it first before we print on it, over the media, over the paper, using acrylic paint. Then we print on top of that, and then I varnish that. So it's kind of a 2-part physical digital collage.
You really see the layers come through.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like the texture of them. And the chicken wire, that was really. Texture's really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it brings so much more. I used to did a very similar thing, only I printed them just on flat, smooth aluminum. Varnished that. I like the look, but I wanted to bring more. I get restless and get bored. It's time to do something new. So here we are. At one point, I chopped these. After doing this, I would then chop them up into dozens of squares and reassemble them. And I would show people something. See, I've done all this to this one and not to this one. And they'll go, hey, either one's fine. So, no, no, I'm not doing this for either one is fine. So I don't do that anymore. But I'm always experimenting, seeing what works for me.
My favorite elements are the elements of abstraction in your work. I absolutely love that because I get frankly kind of bored with just, okay, here's a pot, here's some flour, here you go, realism, great. But when you come in with like splashes and speckles and that's it's just, I love it. See, you incorporate that and you still have the reality, but we have the abstraction.
Yes.
But you didn't pick one or the other.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Jorge mentioned balance earlier, and I always feel like I'm trying to straddle some line of something in there, and my wife pointed out I have three sets of scales on my desk where I work, and so I'm always looking for balance too.
We accomplish this light. It feels like it's so much light captured in your art pieces that are not quite paintings. I don't know what to call them, but they all have this incredible light.
Thank you. It's magic. So no, thank you.
I'm just wondering how you attain the texture underneath the starburst, the swirls.
Yeah. So I buy dozens of kinds of textured paper. It's handmade paper. Some have circles, some have little flowers, some have, in this case, string. And so I cut it out. I don't have any plan. I don't say, okay, I want to put this here or there. I just assemble it randomly. Then I put different kind of artist media on top of that. It's like a plaster, almost like a plaster. And I'll put that on at different levels in different places, which will blot out some of the lines and keep others, and distort them, kind of abstract it a little bit. Then part of it is paint. So
It makes it reflect the light.
yeah. I think that's underlying paint that does that.
Like the Jackson Pollock background on
Yeah, that's I like that. And I actually used, I photographed a wooden I don't know, wall, had these cracks in it, and that's what I actually kept the cracks. I didn't keep the wall, but I love that. Just almost felt like it was a wall a little bit.
Yes, like barn or something.
Yeah. And these blocks. So I did in the psychological series. I did a group, one man. These kind of blocks raining down on him and talking about his issues and his culture and his personal issues. And that, to me, is just kind of a hint at that. It's still like, okay, we're still living in the real world here. We still have real things to deal with, but maybe we can think about them differently.
Besides artistic technique, what has been one of the most important things? Besides artistic technique and outside of art, what has your journey in art been? What's been one of the most important things you've learned, apart from the technical aspects? Outside of that, what is your creative process? What's been one of the most important things you've learned from it?
We're not as limited as we think. I think when I worked a regular job, and there's nothing wrong with that. If I hadn't gotten so burnt out, I would stay there. But it felt like the world seemed limited to me. And it seemed like there's just a lot of things we can't do. And I don't feel that way anymore, because once you quit your job and become an artist, it's like, well, what else? What else? I mean, how unlikely is that? So you just start going, well, let's try this and see if that works. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But it gave me that freedom to try. So I try a lot more. I do a lot more that maybe I would have been completely doubtful it could have even happened, so why try? So it just kind of, I think it opened me up a lot.
What's your next medium? Because you've done a lot of flowers in this scenario. Do you have something else in mind?
I've been struggling with that question myself.
He's gonna stick around and find out.
I don't know for sure. I've been playing with a bunch of different ideas. I've just visited a boatload of museums in the last week or two, and just kind of letting it absorb in, what's really speaking to me, and what can I do that I found that resonates, that I can relate to, So I'm not 100% sure. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see.
Well, thanks for everybody for coming. Like, give it a